Basements have two things working in their favor if you are a secret, a mistake, or a mystery. One, they're out of sight. Two, they're easy to forget about for years at a time, which is exactly how you get hidden tunnels, ancient graves, forgotten bunkers, and things that should have never been there in the first place. What's up, everybody? Welcome back. I am your host today, Olivia Kozlovsky, and today we are talking the top 10 strange discoveries made in basements, and every single one of these is real, documented case, and we are starting with some of the wildest ones first. If you knocked a hole in your basement wall and found a second room, that would already be terrifying. Now imagine knocking a hole in your basement wall and finding a hallway, then another hallway, then stairs, then more stairs, then a whole underground city that looks like it was built for thousands of people to hide inside. That is basically what happened in Derinkuyu, Turkey in the 1960s. The story starts super normal. Homeowners renovating. Some point he breaks through a wall in his basement area, expecting to maybe open up a little extra storage space, but instead he finds a passage leading down, and the deeper he goes, the more it keeps going. What he stumbled into was Derinkuyu, one of the most famous underground complexes in Cappadocia. We are talking multiple levels with rooms and corridors that go way down, designed with ventilation, water access, and spaces that appear to have been used for living, storage, and shelter. This was not just a random hole in the ground, it was a place built for survival. If someone told you, hey, there's a tunnel under a famous building in New York, you might picture an old subway connection or some forgotten utility hallway. This was not that. In January 2024, officials and police ended up dealing with a secret tunnel connected to the Chabad Lubavitch headquarters complex in Crown Heights, Brooklyn, often referred to as 770. Reports describe an unauthorized tunnel, roughly 60 feet long, that connected multiple buildings in the complex. City officials said it was illegally excavated and raised structural concerns for nearby buildings. This became public because when attempts were made to seal it, things escalated into a confrontation and arrests were made. What makes this one so strange is the vibe of it. It was not some ancient tunnel from the 1800s or whatever. It was a modern, secret dig under a living, active building, and it turned into a real-world scene you would normally only see in a movie. London is old, so you expect to find history there. But even London archaeologists sometimes hit something so big that they basically have to stop and say, okay, this changes things. At 85 Gracechurch Street in the City of London, archaeologists working ahead of a redevelopment announced they had uncovered major remains of a Roman basilica, part of the ancient forum area of Londinium. The wild detail is where they found it. In the basement of a building slated for demolition, digging down revealed thick Roman-era walls and foundations. A basilica in Roman times was not a church the way we think of it now. It was a civic building. Law administration, commerce, big decisions, all happening there, and this was right at the center of Roman London's life nearly 2,000 years ago. So picture it. Above ground, modern London, glass and finance and traffic and whatever. Below ground, a basement dig reveals the bones of a Roman civic heart. Crazy. This one sounds like a conspiracy headline until you realize it had been studied and documented in detail. During restoration work in the 1990s at 36 Craven Street in London, a place where Benjamin Franklin once lived, builders found a pit of bones in an underground area associated with the house. More than 1,000 pieces of human and animal bone were recovered, and at first it understandably caused alarm, but careful analysis and historical research pointed toward a much more specific explanation. The evidence lines up with the house being connected to an anatomy school associated with William Hewson, an early autonomist linked to the household at a time when human dissection and anatomical study had serious legal and social complications. So it is not a made-up creepy story, it is real history buried in the basement area of a very famous address discovered by people who were just trying to restore a building. If you're renovating your basement, your biggest fear is usually plumbing. Maybe some mold, maybe a spider the size of a small dog. But one homeowner near Paris learned that there is another option. In a town outside of Paris, a homeowner was doing a basement renovation and they found human remains. That discovery triggered an archaeological investigation, and what they uncovered was not one burial, but a cemetery spanning centuries, including Roman-era graves and later burials, with reports describing dozens of graves and multiple sarcophagi. The part that makes this feel unreal is imagining the layout. Basements are like rooms. normal rooms, and in this case, archaeologists found burials distributed across the basement space, revealing that this modern home sat on top of a long-forgotten burial ground. So the homeowner went downstairs expecting construction dust and frustration and ended up with professional archaeologists mapping graves under his floor. Haunted. That guy's haunted for the rest of his life. Sorry, buddy. This one is like the building itself is playing a prank on you. In Croatia, archaeology work revealed that beneath the modern town hall area, there were remains of a Roman-era theater, sometimes described as an Odeon-type structure. Coverage highlighted that parts of the ancient structure were found under the building, with plans discussed for preserving and presenting the remains. What makes it extra strange is the contrast. A place where modern civic business is handled, paperwork, meetings, budgets, arguments about parking, and under that, a completely different kind of public life from nearly 2,000 years ago, with stonework and design that belonged to another era. It is one of those discoveries that make you realize how often modern cities are just built on top of ancient ones, and nobody knows until someone finally digs into what is below the basement level. Some basement discoveries are strange because they are ancient, some are strange because they are very, very modern, and they make you ask, how did nobody notice this? In a case reported by major outlets, renovation work at a high-value mansion in Paris's 7th arrondissement led to the discovery of a body hidden in the basement area, with reporting describing it as having been there for around 30 years. Authorities opened an investigation into how it happened and why it went undiscovered for so long, and that is the part that sticks with you. Paris is dense, busy, loud. This was not a cabin in the woods. It was a mansion in an exclusive part of a major capital city. Yet something was hidden in the basement and stayed hidden through years of life, continuing above it. It is one of the clearest examples of why basements are such perfect hiding places for secrets, whether those secrets are intentional or just tragic. Imagine believing a story about your family for decades only to find out the truth was literally under your feet. On Long Island, the disappearance of George Carroll dated back to the early 1960s. Family members had been told he simply left and never came back. But years later, relatives dug in the basement of the family home and uncovered human remains that were later identified as his. It's a strange discovery in a different way. Not ancient, not a hidden bunker, not an artifact. Instead, it is the basement becoming a time capsule of a family's unanswered questions. And it also shows how basements can hold not just objects, but entire narratives until someone decides to rip up the floor and finally learn what happened. If you walk into a basement and find old Christmas boxes, you shrug. If you walk into a basement and find industrial doors, communications setups, and a layout designed for a crisis you never lived through, that hits different. In the UK, Hexham House has been documented as having an emergency bunker constructed in its basement during the Cold War era, tied to civil defense planning. Sources describing the site note how official functions and public life existed above, while below was a space designed around worst-case scenarios. The strange part here is how normal it can look from the outside. A historic building, a nice property. You would not assume it has a basement built for emergency government operations, and yet that was real life for a while. People planned for things most of us only think about in movies, and they built those plans into basements. So the discovery is not always found a spooky thing. Sometimes it's realizing your basement was built for a completely different version of the future. This one is the most movie fun discovery on the list because it's bizarre, but it's also kind of perfect. In upstate New York, a couple renovating their early 1900s home discovered dozens of bottles of Prohibition-era whiskey hidden in the structure of the house. Reports describe bottles concealed in walls and floor areas, and after the first find, more were discovered, including packages found beneath a hatch inside the floor. Now, if you live in an old home, you already know the vibe. Weird little doors, panels that don't match, tiny access points you never open because you do not want to meet whatever is living behind them, and here, one hatch opened into proof that someone used this house as a hiding place during Prohibition. It is strange, it is real, and it's the kind of discovery that instantly makes you look at every basement hatch and floor access like it might be hiding a chapter of history. Alright guys, that has been our list for today. Thanks so much for checking it out. I've been your host today, Olivia Kozlowski, and I will see you again soon. Bye!